want to look at what should be the next move for housing. And going up slightly against each other, we're going to have three speakers, one after the other. We have Manuel Gautran, Jacob Norman Hansen, and Parag Khanna. So to get us started, here's Manuel. Thank you.
Hi. I will speak about architecture, about the fact that for me, housing is about inventing new domestic landscapes. And I think that this picture expresses that very, very much. I think I need to always, thinking about housing, I need to create a place to live that has to be beautiful. I think we need to speak about beauty. That has to brace us.
Can we take a picture?
That has to help people in a residence to meet together. So the notion of common spaces is very important. And speaking about this project, which is located in Albania, in Tirana, we decided to emphasize all the common facilities, all the amenities, beautifully in the middle of the building. It's like a lantern with a view on all the orientation looking at the city. So speaking about that, I think that shared spaces means shared lives. And I think the future is not to live alone. So as architects, we need to think about the housing not like an addition of apartments in housing blocks. We need to think about that like a walkway. And in this project, which is this time located in Paris, I decided to create a walkway which is filled successively from the basement to the top floor with a lot of amenities which are specifically programmed, like you have craft workshops, you have play spaces, fitness spaces, a rooftop garden, a solarium, an outdoor kitchen. And it's all opportunities for the inhabitants to spend some time together. I think we need absolutely to think about creating communities. And also, the second part of this project is dedicated to the landscape. Creating new domestic landscapes, it's also in the city, like Paris, which is so dense, which gives you sometimes a sort of suffocating impress in this mineral atmosphere. I wanted to bring the nature in the project. And we decided, as soon as the structure was finished, completed in the phase under construction, to plant a lot of plants. We have like 400 big planters, and we put all the plants. We have more than 6,000 plants. We put soil, water, the plants, and then we continued the phase under construction. And it means that when the inhabitants arrived on the delivery of the building, the nature was already there. The nature was pre-existing. And it created a sort of special relationship between the inhabitant and the nature. It's like a sort of continuity and a permacultural way of living. So the inhabitants were forced, in a way, were encouraged to take care about the plants. And the relationship was really deep between on both sides, between the inhabitants together, because they share so many common spaces, and also between the inhabitants and the plants. And the final slides are speaking about a rooted architecture. An architecture which is rooted in place. It means, for me, that the most important thing about sustainability is to create an ecology of the place. And that is a project in Montpellier. We had to extract a lot of soil to do the basement, and I decided to use this soil. I decided to think about the project like a manifesto on the beauty of the earth. And we decided to create all the facades with rammed earth blocks. The result is a sort of layer of different colors for the soil. It's a way to express the history which was before us, all the layers of the earth itself. And it's a way also to create an architecture of belonging. And I think that's a good conclusion to give the talk now to Jakob. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Jakob Norman Hansen. I'm from Blocks in Copenhagen, and thank you to Housing Matters for inviting me, and thank you to you also for listening. It's late in the afternoon, so I hope you're feeling energized. And I could also ask another question. Are you feeling lonely? And actually, statistically, 1 in every 6 of you will be feeling a severe form of loneliness. The WHO came out with a report recently which identified loneliness as a severe global public health challenge. And the thing is, we are building cities more and more dense. We are living closer and closer, but we are still feeling more alone, and especially in the cities. And this is why I'm here today, to just give a few words about that. We have in Blocks Up, we have launched a publication called The Paradox of Proximity, and have traveled around to different cities, not just in Europe, but across the world, in Seoul and Tokyo and Vancouver, Canada, Copenhagen, and talked to Paris. And the pattern is clear. This is a global problem. This is happening everywhere. It might look different in different cities across the world, but we have the same global challenge. But it is also a potential, because we can find global solutions together. And some of you might ask, why is this important? Why is loneliness important to housing? And if you think about it, through all of human history, our home has been connected to our social network. This is where, whether it was in a cave, in a village, or in a dwelling, we've always had the social network around us, and that is being decoupled right now, from many factors, from the way we build, from our policies, and from the way we invest in housing. So we thought about how can we actually use housing as also a means to improve our social connectivity and reduce loneliness, because this has effects on how we shape how people meet. This is in our close surroundings. So looking at housing is actually one of the first steps in addressing global urban loneliness. And if physical proximity doesn't bring us closer together, maybe we should unfold the mere concept of proximity, not only as a physical issue, but also as a functional proximity, for example. I know the developers and the urban planners are worried about physical proximity, how we design our cities. Functional might be bring in the designers. If you talk about social proximity, it is programs from NGOs, from municipal governments. But if you actually talk about emotional proximity, how we feel and why we feel lonely, then we get a new perspective. And it is within this matrix, in the middle, that I think we can find the solution for solving the global loneliness pandemic. And if we take a starting point in an emotion, which I think we all feel sometimes, it becomes very relatable, it becomes very comprehensible, but it also becomes operational. And I think we need a new paradigm for housing, because what we can't measure, we can't really do anything about. We can't design for it. So we need some new KPIs. We need to see how this very human value of social connection can actually be integrated into the construction industry and into housing. Because if it is a core social value or human value, then it should also be an economic value. It should be something that is part of policy, something that is part of financing and design as well. So this is, I think, our call to also to the real estate industry here in Europe to join us in this journey. We are continuing the work on defining and bridging these different sectors and perspectives on housing and loneliness, and see what we can do on it on a global scale. So you're very welcome to download this publication, and I hope you will also reach out and connect. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So who remembers COVID? I don't see a lot of hands going up. That's a bit disturbing. I know we break life into pre-COVID, COVID, and now, but there are many things that we may remember. Memories will start to come back to you now that I've uttered that word. One of the things that people spoke about during COVID was that maybe we'll never have to come back to offices again. Cities will empty out. People can just move to places like the south of France, live in nice villages, and work remotely for years to come. Do you remember that? Is that memory starting to come back? That's not what happened, is it? Global urbanization is perhaps one of the most reliable, empirical megatrends of all of human history. Nothing has really stopped it for very long. Here you have 8 billion pixels on this map, one for every human being in the world. And not only do you see the geographical distribution of the world population, but I've put some ovals there over some of the megacity clusters that are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, of course, in the wealthy Western countries during COVID, it did make sense to say that some people could afford to leave cities and move away. But in most of the world, that was never going to be the case, because inequality, spatial inequality, is so vast that people in developing countries need to move into cities because of the quality of infrastructure, housing, education, jobs, connectivity, opportunity, all of those things. And if you look at the pace of urbanization today and the size of these cities that continue to expand, there are places you can still predict with the rapid pace of urbanization. You can predict which places are going to continue to grow and which new places that aren't yet major ovals here are going to expand. Let's take, for example, the contrast between India and China. China's economy is still about 4 times larger than India's, and it has about 36 major developed high-quality infrastructure urban clusters. India doesn't yet even have 8 such cities, but it has a larger population. So imagine India over the next 10, 15, 20 years. How many existing cities, and perhaps even new cities, still have to be built? And of course, India, this was an infographic I saw yesterday, has more than double the birth rate, the number of children being born, total number of children that were born, so not the rate, but the net figure, last year than any other country in the world. So never bet against urbanization, never bet against our own innate desire to concentrate face-to-face, to connect, to be with each other in cities. That is a theme that you've heard now the entire day, and it is an anthropological fact. There's something else that's starting to be very, very evident, is that where people want to go are also diverse places, melting pots, you could call them. Look at the bubbles here on this map. The percentage of foreign-born people in these major cities. Now, these are the great metropolitan centers of the world. They are the commercial, the intellectual, driving heart or beating heart of the world economy. And what all of those places also have in common is that they are open, that they are welcoming to talent from all over the world. And this becomes a very, very significant factor when you think about the war for talent that has been a major theme after COVID. Do you know how many countries before COVID had golden visa, digital nomad kinds of programs? There were probably less than 10. Today, it's about 100 or so countries. Now, no one forced the countries of the world or the cities that drive those countries' economies to open up like that. It was an organic, a natural, obvious realization that it's better to have people coming into your country, driving your economy, contributing to your innovation, than not to have them. And these melting pot cities, these great cities, are evidence of this historical, timeless truth that to be innovative, to be dynamic, to be desirable, you have to be open to people from all walks of life. Now, this gets more and more important because one of the other things that COVID taught us, or what we saw happen, is that there was a fertility crash, or rather, the fertility crash that has been underway for decades was further accelerated. And now, I think it's become common knowledge that the world population is not going to reach 15 billion people, or even 12 billion people, not even 10 billion people in all likelihood. So we've reached, or we are reaching, in just the next 15 to 20 years, what some call peak humanity. The world population will peak and begin to decline. But most of the world's population is, in fact, already young. And young people are those that are far more likely to migrate than older people. If you look at just the past 25 years of history, this is a net figure. This map is showing you the net flow of migrants from within and across regions of the world since the year 2000. And it's absolutely staggering. Literally never in human history have this many people relocated across the vast geography of the world in such a short period of time. And whereas our news headlines are consumed with talk of protectionism, border closures, xenophobia, and so forth, and that is certainly happening, the overall pattern is still towards more movement of peoples, because we've also never had such a large gap between old and young within regions and across regions. Supply and demand are very much out of sync in the global labor market. And therefore, whatever the populist whims of the day are, these realities wind up prevailing in the long run. And so we can start to anticipate where people are going, why they're going there, and who is doing this moving. The other shift is, of course, cultural, and this predates COVID. Young people, saturated with social media as their primary source of truth and information, have started to share certain cultural norms. And I asked many of you, I see actually this is a fairly young audience, but many of us who are in our 40s or 50s have a certain similar background, let's say. We may have grown up in Western societies, suburban, two-parent, two-income sort of household, and so forth. And so they often wrestle with the challenge of putting themselves in the shoes of today's median human being. I said at the beginning there's going to be, maybe say 9.5 billion people alive in the world in 10 years' time. And if you could characterize them, who is that median human being? It's not the way our parents grew up in the mid or late 20th century. The median human being in the world today is young, not old, is single, not married, is childless, maximum one child, does not own a home at all. It's literally not an asset owner. The most valuable possession that most people in the world may have, or that median person has, is literally just their mobile phone, not a home. And many of them, culturally and commercially, would prefer to invest in crypto assets than home ownership. They're looking for access and mobility rather than necessarily planting roots. These are all of the shifts psychologically and behaviorally that you have to get used to if you really want to understand where people are going, why they're going there, and of course, what do you need to build to accommodate them. It's a very, very different generational culture that I feel is going to be long-lasting. And so it comes down to anticipate and to accommodate the desires, the preferences of the global youth of today, the global migrants of today and tomorrow, to know where they want to be and what kinds of places they want to be in. And of course, it comes down to some fairly basic things. I look for countries and societies that are open to migrants, that are politically stable, that are climate resilient, that have affordable housing, that have good educational systems and labor markets and so forth. Those are the common characteristics. Places that are either building or places that are decaying. And in the war for talent, you definitely want to be in the former category. In Europe, you can anticipate the desirability of a place by looking at or cross-referencing various indices and geo-referencing them, putting them on a map. What are the places that are affordable? What are the places where infrastructure is being built? What are the places that are climate resilient? And where these factors intersect, you actually see people showing up there. They may not necessarily be sorting and filtering all that data there, but they are voting with their feet, and these patterns are emerging. And so I'll conclude. I had to jump over a couple of slides there, but I was giving a few specific examples of places. I actually live in Singapore that are kind of getting it right, that are building the right kinds of real estate, that have kept things affordable, that are attracting young migrants and so forth, and factoring in climate change and climate adaptation, which is one of the central themes that is animating young people as they relocate. Now, I started with that map of the megacity clusters showing the patterns or the reality after hundreds of thousands of years of human migration. And remember that every century since, or every millennium, the leading cities are not always the same. There's a constant evolution in the map of the world in terms of where people concentrate and why, right? Whether it is New York of the 20th century, the question is, what are the New Yorks and Londons of the 21st century in light of mass migrations, in light of questions of affordability and job creation and political stability, and in light of climate change. So what I end with positing the kinds of some of the locations that are going to thrive in the future on the map in light of climate stress and also migrations. And this layered onto the top of that map of the tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people that are circulating around the world gives you a sense of where you want to be building for the future in order to accommodate a world that is perpetually on the move. Thank you.